They grabbed my arms right in the middle of graduation, my gown dragging across the stairs. And Aunt Lorraine laughed until her mascara ran, "Stop pretending to be brave." The entire auditorium turned. I saw the school's live stream camera lock onto my mother's face. I didn't cry. I counted. 1, 2, 3. Enough evidence captured. They dragged me off the stage. I let them pull because the moment they let go, everything they'd built would collapse right here on this same stage. My name is Madison Blake, and I'd spent 4 years preparing for this moment, just not the way it was happening. The May sun beat down on Hawthorne State University's football field, turning the black graduation gowns into portable ovens. The speaker system crackled with each name called, echoing off the metal bleachers packed with families. I should have been walking across that stage right now, shaking the dean's hand, holding my emergency nursing degree like a shield I'd earned through night shifts and blood draws. Instead, my parents had me by both arms, hauling me backward through the VIP section while 300 graduates and 2,000 guests watched. My mother, Darlene, had somehow gotten hold of the announcer's backup microphone. Her voice boomed across the field. "This is our daughter, the one who abandons family, who takes our money and pretends she earned all this herself." The smell of her perfume, that same vanilla musk she'd worn my whole life, mixed with the copper taste of adrenaline in my mouth. My father, Victor, gripped my left arm hard enough to wrinkle the polyester gown, his mechanic's hands still bearing traces of motor oil under the nails despite his Sunday best suit. "Stop pretending to be brave." Aunt Lorraine's voice cut through the chaos, her designer heels clicking on the temporary platform as she laughed. Real tears streamed down her face, carving rivers through her foundation. "We know what you really are." Security moved toward us 2 campus officers in yellow vests, looking more confused than authoritative. But I wasn't watching them. My eyes tracked 3 cameras the official university livestream mounted on the media platform, its red recording light steady. The local news crew from Channel 7 who'd come to cover the nursing program's record graduation rate, and most importantly, the Alumni Association's photographer, whose high-resolution camera was capturing every second in brutal clarity. The LED screens flanking the stage, usually showing close-ups of graduates, now displayed my mother's contorted face as she continued her performance. The microphone feedback screeched, making people cover their ears. Ma'am? You need to..." One security officer reached for the microphone. "Don't touch me." Darlene jerked away, nearly stumbling in her borrowed dress shoes. "I have every right. We paid for her education, every penny from our Brave Hearts Foundation, and this is how she repays us." I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket, a scheduled notification. 10:28 a.m., 2 minutes until the first phase. The email to my lawyer had already been sent, triggered by GPS location when I'd entered the stadium. The investigator from the county prosecutor's office was sitting somewhere in Section B, badge concealed, waiting. The Google Drive folder labeled Evidence BHF Fraud would go public at exactly 10:32. "Please," my father said to the growing circle of onlookers, his voice carrying that practiced tremor of martyrdom. "We just want our daughter to acknowledge what we've sacrificed." Someone's phone flashed a student recording for Instagram or TikTok, then another, and another. Within seconds, dozens of phones pointed at us, their black screens reflecting the sun like mirrors. The graduating class in their neat rows had all turned to watch, their ceremony hijacked. I cataloged every detail with the same precision I'd learned documenting trauma patients, the exact angle of the cameras, the position of witnesses, the timestamp on the stadium clock showing 10:29. Each second of public humiliation they inflicted was another piece of evidence, another nail in the coffin they didn't know they were building. The dean stepped to his microphone at the podium. "Security, please escort..." "We're her parents," Darlene shrieked, mascara running like Lorraine's now. "We have rights." But I wasn't looking at her anymore. I was watching the countdown in my head, feeling the weight of 18 months of documentation in digital folders, testimony recordings, forged signatures, and stolen dreams about to detonate. They could drag me off this stage. They could scream about their sacrifices and my ingratitude. They could put on this whole show for the cameras. In 90 seconds, those same cameras would capture something else entirely. The smell of fried oil still clings to my memories of that trailer in Riverton's outskirts, where the TV's blue glow painted our faces every evening while talk shows droned about other people's tragedies. That was 3 years ago, but the manipulation started long before I ever put on a uniform. Our double-wide sat on concrete blocks, surrounded by similar homes where American flags hung limp in the humid air and everyone knew everyone's business. The kitchen table scarred formica that Darlene covered with a plastic cloth became their war room every Sunday after church. That's where they refined their script for me. Just tell them about your service, my mother would coach, sliding her phone across the table. Martha Henderson's church group wants to hear from a real veteran. They're offering $5,000 for your nursing school. The Facebook post she'd drafted under my name made my skin crawl. Hi, I'm Madison Blake, former combat medic. The nightmares keep me up, but I dream of becoming an ER nurse to continue saving lives. Any donation helps? God bless. I never saw a penny. Every check went into a 529 education account in my name, but only their signatures on the withdrawal cards. It's for your future, Victor would say, his hands black from the garage where he worked cash jobs. We're managing it responsibly. You just focus on school. Aunt Lorraine orchestrated the connections, arriving each week in her Lexus that looked obscene parked next to our rusty Toyota. She'd sit on our sagging couch, scrolling through her phone, finding new marks. There's a Veterans Charity Gala next month. Madison should speak. Wear your uniform. I'm not comfortable. Not comfortable. Lorraine's laugh was sharp as broken glass. After everything we've done, the sacrifices we've made to keep this roof over your head while you play student, the gaslighting was methodical. When I'd question where the donations went, how dare you accuse us? When I'd ask to see bank statements, you don't trust your own parents. When I wanted to manage my own accounts, you're too traumatized to make financial decisions. Remember how confused you were when you first came back. They weaponized my PTSD symptoms against me. Every hesitation became confusion. Every boundary became paranoia. Every question became ingratitude. Meanwhile, I worked 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shifts at Northridge Medical Center, drawing blood from addicts who reminded me of field casualties, starting IVs on elderly patients whose veins rolled like the dehydrated soldiers I'd treated. My scrubs still smelled like sanitizer when I'd drag myself to morning classes, running on 3 hours of sleep and gas station coffee. My dream was simple: join the ER trauma team, handle the chaos I'd been trained for, save lives in those golden minutes that mattered. Every paycheck went to tuition after I secretly opened my own bank account, telling them the hospital had payment issues when they noticed deposits stopping, but I documented everything. It was a habit from deployment if you don't write it down. It didn't happen. Every receipt, every text message, every forced signature on documents I'd photographed before signing. The cloud storage filled with PDFs and screenshots, sorted by date and type. When Darlene made me sign a power of attorney for emergencies, I kept the carbon copy she didn't know existed. "You're getting paranoid," she'd say when she caught me taking pictures of paperwork. "That's not healthy. Madison, maybe you need to increase your therapy." The therapy they didn't know I'd stopped attending months ago, pocketing the copays for my escape fund. The pattern was always the same: isolation, guilt, financial control. They'd invite relatives over to witness my ingratitude when I'd resist. They'd create scenes at the few social events I attended, ensuring I'd be too embarrassed to maintain friendships. They'd call my work to check on me, hinting at my mental fragility to supervisors. "Your daughter seems stressed," my nursing supervisor had told me after one such call. "Your mother's very concerned." That night, I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot, watching dawn break over the mountains, and made a decision. I wouldn't run. I wouldn't disappear into another city like I'd fantasized. I would document everything. build an airtight case. And when the moment came when they inevitably overplayed their hand in public, I would end this game permanently. I just hadn't expected that moment to be my graduation day. The email arrived on a Tuesday at 3:47 a.m. While I was inserting an IV into a homeless veteran's scarred arm, the subject line made my hands freeze mid-procedure. "Thank you for your generous contribution to Brave Hearts Foundation." "You okay, Blake?" my colleague asked, taking over the IV. I stepped into the supply closet and read it 3 times on my phone's cracked screen. "Dear Miss and Madison Blake, the Brave Hearts Foundation deeply appreciates your extraordinary donation of $100,000 toward your nursing education and our veteran support programs. Your generosity enables us to continue our mission. Enclosed is your tax-deductible receipt. Warmly, Darlene Blake, Executive Director." $100,000. Money I'd never seen. Money donated in my name. For my education. That had somehow vanished into their foundation. That morning, I didn't go home. I drove straight to the county administrative building and pulled up the IRS website on my phone. The EIN lookup was simple. Every nonprofit has to register. There it was. Brave Hearts Foundation, incorporated 18 months ago. Executive Director Darlene Blake. Treasurer Lorraine Mitchell. Secretary Victor Blake. The 990 forms told a different story than their Facebook posts about helping veterans rebuild their lives. Administrative costs 92%. Actual program services 8%. Those services, educational support and counseling, which translated to the forced therapy sessions they'd made me attend with their friend who wasn't even licensed. I paid $12 for certified copies, my hands shaking as I held the papers. The address listed was our trailer, the board meetings they claimed to hold, our kitchen table talks where they decided how to spend other people's money. But the real gut punch came when I searched their website on the library computer. My face stared back at me a photo from my deployment, dust-covered and exhausted after a 15-hour trauma shift at Bagram. The caption, "Madison Blake, our inspiration and primary beneficiary." The donation page featured a video I'd never consented to, compiled from phone recordings of me at my worst moments after returning home. The brochure PDF was professional Lorraine's work. Probably glossy digital pages with stock photos of veterans, statistics about PTSD, and testimonials from donors praising the foundation's work. My story was centerpiece, the traumatized combat medic pursuing her nursing degree, overcoming nightmares to save lives again. They'd even included photos from my Instagram, scenes from the hospital, my textbooks spread across our kitchen table. "Your donation directly supports veterans like Madison," the text promised. "Every dollar goes toward education, mental health support, and rebuilding lives." I screenshot everything, uploaded it to 3 different cloud services, and emailed copies to a new Proton Mail account they didn't know about. Then I started digging deeper. The donation records were partially public. Major donors got their names on the website's Wall of Heroes, churches, veteran groups, individual families who'd given thousands thinking they were helping a struggling combat medic get through school. The Hendersons, 20,000. First Baptist of Riverside, 35,000. The Wounded Warriors Motorcycle Club, 15,000. The timing of these donations aligned perfectly with my school records. Every semester, just before tuition was due, a new fundraising push. Madison needs help with fall semester. Emergency medical bills for Madison's treatment. Help Madison complete her final year. Meanwhile, my actual tuition was being paid from my night shift wages. Every paycheck deposited into the secret account they didn't know existed. I'd been living on ramen and energy drinks, wearing the same 3 sets of scrubs, taking the bus when my car broke down rather than asking for help while they collected 6 figures in my name. The kicker was in the grant applications I found through the state's public records request. They'd applied for veteran education grants using my DD-214, my medical records, my transcript. The applications claimed I was unable to work due to disability, that the family was providing full-time care, that every penny would go directly to my education and recovery. Stop pretending to be brave. It wasn't just a cruel taunt. It was literally their fundraising slogan. Stop pretending to be brave. Ask for help. Support veterans like Madison who've given everything and need our community's support to heal. They'd commercialized my trauma, packaged my service, and sold my story to anyone willing to write a check. And somewhere in their twisted logic, they probably believed they deserved it for managing my life. I sat in that library until closing time, building my evidence folder, tax documents, incorporation papers, fundraising materials, grant applications, bank records from the 529 account showing withdrawals matching casino ATM timestamps and luxury purchases. The final piece fell into place when I found the notarized documents with my signature, except I'd been working a documented shift at the hospital during the supposed signing time. The notary was Lorraine's friend from church. They hadn't just stolen from me. They'd stolen from every person who'd wanted to help a veteran. They'd built their con on the assumption that I'd stay quiet, stay compliant, stay broken. They had no idea what I'd learned in combat: how to wait, how to plan, and how to strike when the enemy was most exposed. I approached this like trauma surgery, methodical, precise, no wasted movements. Every piece of evidence had to be bulletproof, every document authenticated, every recording legally obtained. Nevada was a one-party consent state for recordings. That one detail would save me. The phone recordings started simple. I bought a $20 app that automatically saved everything to the cloud. When Darlene called at 2:15 a.m., during my shift break, crying about needing emergency funds, I let it record. "The foundation's account is frozen temporarily," she sobbed. "But Madison's education fund can cover it. Just this once. You won't even notice. The 529 account." I kept my voice neutral, clinical. "You signed the authorization. Remember, for family emergencies. This is an emergency. Baby." Every call added to the archive, Victor demanding I sign blank withdrawal forms for convenience. Lorraine laughing about how those church idiots would donate to anything with a sob story. They handed me evidence like gifts they didn't know they were giving. The bank statements took more work. I couldn't access the 529 directly, but Nevada law required quarterly statements to beneficiaries. I filed the formal request, paid the processing fee, and received 3 years of transaction history. The pattern was obvious: large withdrawals every month, always just under the $10,000 reporting threshold. The ATM locations told their own story: Silver Creek Casino, Nugget Resort, the Horseshoe Gaming Palace. I cross-referenced the dates with their social media. January 15th, 9,500 withdrawn from the 529. January 16th, Lorraine posted photos of her new diamond necklace. A little self-care splurge. March 3rd, 8,400 gone. March 5th, Victor's Facebook showed their new living room furniture. Blessed to upgrade our space. The forged signatures required professional analysis. I took my employment records from Northridge Medical, every form I'd signed over 3 years, to a document examiner in Carson City. Paid $600 from my escape fund for a formal report. The signatures on the foundation's notarized forms didn't match. Not even close. The pressure patterns, the letter formations, the stroke sequences all different. "This is deliberate forgery," the examiner told me. "Whoever did this wasn't even trying to match your writing." Nora Quinn became my unexpected ally. We'd barely talked in class until she noticed me photographing the foundation's latest fundraising flyer on the campus bulletin board. "That's you in the photo," she said. "Did you approve this?" When I told her not everything, just enough her journalism instincts kicked in. She had access to the university's AV department as part of the student media team. More importantly, she understood how to document things for public consumption. "We need the graduation footage locked down," she said, tapping her laptop. "Multiple angles, broadcast quality. If something happens, something will happen," I said. "They can't help themselves." The lawyer came through Nora's professor, who knew someone doing pro bono work for veterans. Diana Lake was everything I needed, experienced in fraud cases, familiar with nonprofit law, and utterly unsentimental about family crimes. "The criminal case is solid," she said, reviewing my evidence folders in her downtown office. "But timing matters. File too early. They disappear the remaining money. File too late. More victims pile up. We mapped out the sequence first. A preservation letter to the banks, no transactions allowed without court approval. Second, notifications to the Attorney General's Fraud Division and the IRS Exempt Organizations Unit. Third, criminal complaints with the county prosecutor. All letters drafted, sealed, and ready to mail. "What's your trigger point?" Diana asked. "Graduation day. They'll want the spotlight, the sympathy. They'll make a scene. And you'll be recording. Everyone will be recording. It's 2024. Every phone is a camera." The final preparation was psychological. I wrote out their likely moves, their go-to manipulations, their emergency pivots. I practiced my responses in the hospital bathroom mirror during breaks. Calm face, steady breathing, no visible reaction. Let them perform. Let them escalate. Every word they spoke in public would be admissible. I backed up everything 5 ways: cloud storage, external drives, USB sticks in a safety deposit box, copies with Diana, and a final failsafe, a scheduled email to 3 journalists set to send unless I canceled it every 24 hours. The night before graduation, I worked my regular shift. Drew blood from a young veteran with track marks between his fingers. Started an IV on an elderly woman who reminded me of my grandmother. Helped code a cardiac arrest who didn't make it. Real work, real purpose. While my phone buzzed with family messages about celebrating tomorrow. At 6:58 a.m., I clocked out, changed into my graduation outfit in the employee bathroom, and drove to campus. In my pocket, my phone recording, a backup battery, and a flash drive with everything. Diana was already in position with the county investigator. Nora had the AV booth prepared. The AG's office had the preservation orders ready to execute at 10:31 a.m. I walked into that stadium knowing exactly what would happen. They'd grab me, humiliate me, try to destroy this moment I'd earned with my own blood and sweat. What they didn't know was that this wasn't my graduation day anymore. It was theirs from freedom to federal prison. The test run happened 3 days before graduation. I met Darlene at a Starbucks near the hospital, choosing the corner table where the security camera had perfect angles. My phone sat between us, recording app running, hidden under a napkin. "We need to talk about the ceremony," she started, stirring her latte with aggressive precision. "Your father and I deserve recognition for everything we've sacrificed." "What kind of recognition?" I kept my voice flat. Medical professional discussing symptoms. "The foundation should be mentioned. When you walk across that stage, people should know who made it possible." I let the silence stretch, counting heartbeats. "The foundation paid for my education." Her eyes narrowed. She heard the trap, but walked in anyway. "You know it did. Every penny from those donors went to your future. You signed the papers. Madison, the 529 releases, the grant applications. I signed them. Don't play stupid." Her voice rose enough that nearby customers glanced over. "You signed everything. You agreed to family management of funds. It's all legal, all documented." There it was admission of the forged signatures, recorded in public, with witnesses. I nodded slowly. "I should be grateful." "You should be more than grateful. You should be—" She caught herself, maybe remembering we were in public. "Just don't embarrass us at graduation. We have donors attending." That night, Victor's counterstrike arrived in the form of a process server at the hospital. Restraining order petition, filed on grounds of mental instability and threatening behavior. The documents claimed I'd been aggressive and delusional, that my PTSD made me a danger to family members, that I'd threatened violence during recent conversations. The affidavit was signed by Lorraine, swearing she'd witnessed my deteriorating mental state and paranoid accusations about financial matters. She'd even included photos me at the house looking exhausted after double shifts, captioned as exhibiting manic behavior. My supervisor pulled me aside. "Madison, we received concerning calls from your family. They're requesting your fitness for duty evaluation." I handed her my prepared folder, 3 years of spotless performance reviews, commendations from the ER attending. My recent psychological evaluation from an independent psychiatrist not their friend. And my NCLEX scores in the 95th percentile. I anticipated this, I told her. There's an ongoing fraud investigation. They're trying to discredit me before it goes public. She looked through the documents, her expression hardening. Your shift schedule shows you were working during several of these alleged incidents. Time-stamped badge swipes and patient charts will confirm. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the Monday after graduation deliberately. I assumed to prevent me from attending. But Diana had already filed an emergency motion to expedite, arguing that preventing me from my own graduation would cause irreparable harm. The judge agreed to hear it Friday afternoon, 20 hours before the ceremony. In court, Lorraine took the stand in her best church outfit, crying on cue. She's not the same since she came back. We're terrified of what she might do. Diana's cross-examination was surgical. Ms. Mitchell, you claim my client threatened you on May 2nd at 3 p.m. Yes, she was aggressive and these are her hospital records showing she was administering medication to patient ID 4847 at that exact time. Are you suggesting she can be in two places at once? The judge dismissed the petition with prejudice. But the real victory was Lorraine's panicked text to Darlene, which she sent while still in the courthouse bathroom. Not knowing I was in the next stall. Plan failed. She has lawyers. Move the money now. I forwarded the screenshot to Diana and the investigator. Within 2 hours, the preservation orders were upgraded to an asset freeze. Every account connected to the foundation was locked. That's when they went nuclear. Lorraine posted in every local Facebook group, every veterans forum, every church newsletter, urgent Madison Blake suffering severe PTSD crisis. Family needs support for intervention. She included my phone number. My voicemail filled with concerned strangers, offering prayers and advice. Local news picked it up. Family seeks help for troubled veteran. They'd turned my graduation into a public spectacle before I'd even walked in. But they'd made a critical error. The Facebook posts, the media contacts, the public pleas all mentioned the Brave Hearts Foundation. All directed people to donate for my treatment. All happened after the asset freeze, meaning new fraud charges, fresh evidence, real-time documentation of the crime in progress. Nora texted me at 11:45 p.m. AV crew is ready. We've got camera positions mapped. Whatever happens tomorrow, we'll capture everything. Diana called at midnight. AG's office confirmed. They'll have agents present. The moment anything happens, we execute. I spent the early morning of graduation at the hospital, finishing my last shift as a student nurse. Changed into my cap and gown in the break room, my colleagues hugging me goodbye, not knowing they might be seeing my face on the news by noon. You sure you're okay? My charge nurse asked. With everything your family's posting? I'm exactly where I need to be, I said, adjusting my honor cords. I drove to campus playing no music, windows down, desert air warming with sunrise. My phone showed 53 missed calls from family members. The graduation program sat on my passenger seat, my name highlighted in the honors section they'd tried so hard to erase. At 9:55 a.m., I walked through the stadium gates. At 9:58, I saw them in the VIP section, Darlene, Victor, and Lorraine, dressed like they were attending their own celebration. At 10 a.m., the ceremony started. At 10:28, they made their move. Everything after that happened exactly as I'd planned. The bigger picture emerged when Diana's investigator pulled nonprofit records from 3 adjacent states. Brave Hearts Foundation wasn't their first production, just their most ambitious. Look at this. Diana spread papers across her desk the morning before graduation. Hearts for Heroes in Arizona, folded 2 years ago. Warriors Hope in Utah, dissolved after investigation. Same board structure, different names. The pattern was industrial-scale fraud. They'd refined their playbook over 5 years, learning from each near miss with authorities. My name wasn't the only one being sold. 7 other veterans appeared in their marketing materials, all conveniently unable to be reached for comment or preferring privacy during recovery. Private investigator Marcus Webb, A former IRS criminal investigator Diana had brought in found the smoking gun in state grant applications. They claimed 32 veterans in their care program, filed for federal VOCA funds, state emergency relief, county housing assistance. 32 veterans. I stared at the numbers. I've never seen another veteran at our house except me. Because they don't exist. Look. He pulled up a spreadsheet. Same Social Security patterns, sequential numbers with digits transposed. They created phantom veterans, collected benefits, then reported them as relocated or program completed. The real number hit me like a gut punch, $1.3 million over 4 years. How did nobody catch this? They kept each fraud under reporting thresholds. Multiple states, multiple agencies, no centralized database. Until now. Marcus tapped a federal case number. The FBI's nonprofit fraud unit opened a file yesterday. Your evidence triggered a multi-state investigation. That evening, Lorraine made a mistake that confirmed everything. She posted on the Foundation's Facebook page a celebration announcement. The Mayor's Office and Alumni Association were jointly presenting the Spirit of Courage Award to Darlene Blake immediately following graduation, honoring her tireless work supporting veterans through Brave Hearts Foundation. The comments flooded in from donors congratulating her. The Henderson family promised another $10,000 donation live in the comments. First Baptist announced a special collection. The Wounded Warriors MC posted they'd ride in formation to the ceremony in support. I screenshot everything, then found the cached versions of their deleted posts, the ones from previous foundations, previous awards, previous states, same playbook, same performance, just rotating geography when heat got too close. Nora texted at 11:30 p. You need to see this. She'd found their grant application for the Spirit of Courage Award. In it, they'd claimed credit for my entire medical career from combat service to nursing degree. They'd submitted forged letters of recommendation from veterans who didn't exist, impact statistics that were pure fiction, and financial documents showing the Foundation's exceptional management of funds. The award came with a $25,000 unrestricted grant. They're going to take that money and run, Diana said when I called her. This award is their exit strategy, public vindication before disappearing. No, I said. It's their stage. They want the spotlight, the validation, the video clips for the next con. They'll stay for the whole show. Diana's contact at the Attorney General's office confirmed it. We've upgraded this to priority prosecution, multi-state wire fraud, nonprofit violations, identity theft. If they take that award money knowing about the investigation, it's additional counts. The final piece locked in at 4A. Marcus called, waking me from the 2 hours of sleep I'd managed. Found something. The notary who authenticated your signatures, she's been notarizing for all their foundations. Same woman, different states, using variations of her name. She's Lorraine's cousin. That's RICO territory, Diana said on our conference call. Organized crime, interstate operation, family enterprise. We're not talking state charges anymore. This is federal. I sat in my dark apartment, still in my scrubs from my shift, looking at my cap and gown hanging on the closet door. In 5 hours, I'd walk into that stadium. In 6 hours, they'd destroy my graduation in front of everyone. In 7 hours, their entire world would collapse on the same stage where they'd tried to humiliate me. The text from an unknown number arrived at 5:45 a.m. This is Special Agent Sarah Chin, FBI Charlotte Division. We'll have assets present at the ceremony. Do not deviate from your plan. Let them complete their actions for full documentation. I deleted the text, showered, put on my dress under the graduation gown, tucked my phone in my pocket with 3 backup batteries. The recording app was set to auto-upload every 5 minutes to 3 different cloud services. Diana texted at 6:30 a.m. Federal warrant signed. Will be executed simultaneously with state action. Nora at 7 a.m. We've got 6 cameras positioned. Whatever happens, every angle is covered. At 8 a.m. The Alumni Association posted photos of the Spirit of Courage Award trophy, engraved with Darlene's name. Waiting on stage. At 9 I parked at the stadium, watching news vans arrive for what they thought would be a feel-good graduation story. At 9:45, a mem. I saw the FBI surveillance van in the overflow lot, unmarked but obvious if you knew what to look for. At 10 a.m., as the processional music started, I took my place in line, knowing that in exactly 28 minutes, my parents would commit their final crime in front of 2,000 witnesses, 3 law enforcement agencies, and a federal prosecution team. They wanted their award. They'd get it, handcuffs included. The execution unfolded with surgical precision, every second choreographed like a trauma code where everyone knows their role. 10:30 a.m. They grabbed me mid-step, just as my name echoed across the stadium. Darlene's fingers dug into my right arm while Victor took the left. The microphone she'd somehow acquired screeched to life. "This ungrateful child took everything from us." Her voice boomed across the field. "The Brave Hearts Foundation gave her everything, every dollar for school, every opportunity, and she betrays family." Lorraine's laugh cut through the chaos, mascara already running in performative tears. "Stop pretending to be brave. Madison, we know what you really are." I stayed silent, counting seconds. The cameras were rolling university livestream, news crews, hundreds of phones. My phone in my pocket captured every word in high definition. 10:31 a.m. Nora's fingers flew across the AV control board. The stadium's giant LED screens flickered, then went black. The microphone in Darlene's hand cut out mid-sentence. For a moment, confused silence. Then the screens exploded to life. The first image, the Brave Hearts Foundation brochure with my photo, overlaid with text. Madison Blake never authorized this use. The second, a bank statement showing $9,500 withdrawn from the 529 account. The third, security footage from Silver Creek Casino's ATM. Timestamp matched. Darlene's face clear as she counted $100 bills. The audio kicked in Darlene's own voice from our recorded conversation. "You signed everything. The 529 releases. The grant applications." Then my voice. "I signed them." Her response. "Don't play stupid. You signed everything." The crowd's murmur grew to a roar. Someone shouted, "That's fraud." Another voice. "She stole from veterans." The screen split left side showing the forged signature on foundation documents, right side showing my authentic signature from employment records. The text overlay, "Document examiner confirms forgery." 10:32 Email notifications exploded across the stadium as the Google Drive link went public. Every donor, every reporter, every attendee with the graduation app received it simultaneously. Evidence BHF, fraud complete, 300 pages of documentation. The Attorney General's representative stepped out from behind the stage, badge visible, walking purposefully toward the VIP section. Behind him, 2 FBI agents in Navy windbreakers emerged from the crowd. "Darlene Blake." The AG's voice carried through his own microphone. "You're under investigation for nonprofit fraud, wire fraud, and identity theft. Please step away from your daughter." But Darlene held tighter, her face cycling through expressions shock, rage, calculation. "This is a setup. She's sick. PTSD makes her paranoid." The LED screen changed again, Lorraine's Facebook post from 12 hours ago, soliciting emergency donations for my mental health crisis. Below it, a real-time ticker. New fraud committed during asset freeze, additional federal charges applicable. Victor released my arm first, stepping backward, looking for an exit. But stadium security had already moved to block the aisles, not to keep me in, but to keep them from leaving. 10:33 a.m. The moment of the knife twist. The Alumni Association president walked on stage, carrying the Spirit of Courage Award trophy. He took the podium microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we need to address this situation immediately." He held up the trophy engraved with Darlene's name. "Based on evidence provided to law enforcement, this award is hereby rescinded." He turned the trophy upside down and removed the nameplate in full view of everyone. The sound of metal on metal echoed across the silent stadium. Lorraine's laugh died completely. Her designer heels clicked as she tried to back away, but found an FBI agent behind her. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us." The LED screen showed one final image, the grand total. $1.3 million stolen across 4 years, 32 phantom veterans, 3 states defrauded. The photos of real veterans they'd used scrolled past faces stolen from social media, stories fabricated, lives exploited. The crowd's energy shifted from confusion to anger. These were their donations, their trust, their desire to help veterans, all perverted into casino chips and jewelry. "She needs help," Darlene screamed, still gripping my arm. "She's delusional. We're her parents." I finally spoke, taking the AG representative's offered microphone. My voice came out steady, clinical, the same tone I used calling codes in the ER. "I'm not pretending to be brave. I stopped pretending to be silent." The stadium erupted. Some applauded. Some shouted condemnations at my family. Others stood in shocked silence. The graduate section broke into chaos as my classmates stood to see better. Security officers moved in, gently but firmly separating Darlene's fingers from my arm. The red marks would photograph well for evidence. Victor was already in handcuffs, being read his rights by an FBI agent. Lorraine was escorted toward the exit, her designer outfit incongruous against the federal agent's tactical gear. Darlene made one last attempt. "After everything we sacrificed, after we gave you a home." The LED screen displayed a final document, my lease agreement from 2 years ago, showing I'd been living independently, paying my own rent, while they collected donations for my care. As security led them away, the crowd parted like the Red Sea, but not in respect. People held up phones, recording their perp walk, live streaming the collapse of the Brave Hearts Foundation in real time. 10:34 a.m. The dean returned to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll resume the ceremony momentarily." I stood alone where they'd grabbed me, my graduation gown torn at the shoulder, my cap somewhere on the ground. 300 nursing graduates behind me, 2,000 witnesses around me, and for the first time in years, no one controlling me. The investigation report would later show that 17 donors were watching the live stream, their attorneys already drafting civil suits before the ceremony ended. The stadium fell into an eerie quiet, like the pause between lightning and thunder. Confetti from the celebration that never happened still drifted across the stage, catching the morning light like fragments of everything they'd tried to steal. I bent down and picked up my graduation cap from where it had fallen. The tassel was tangled, the mortarboard cracked along one edge. I straightened it anyway, placed it back on my head. The dean stood at the podium, waiting. The entire ceremony frozen in this moment between chaos and whatever came next. "Madison Blake," he called again, as if the last 5 minutes hadn't happened. "Bachelor of Science in Nursing, Emergency Medicine Specialty. Summa cum laude." I walked across that stage on legs that didn't shake, accepted my diploma with hands that had sutured wounds in combat zones and started IVs in dying veins. The dean shook my hand, held it a moment longer than protocol required. "Your real family is here," he said quietly, nodding toward the nursing faculty standing in ovation. The applause started with my clinical instructor, spread through the medical staff section, then rippled across the entire stadium. 2,000 people on their feet, not for the performance my parents had staged, but for what came after the moment someone finally said, "Enough." I returned to my seat among the graduates. Nobody asked if I was okay. These were nurses. They knew how to read vitals without machines. They simply shifted their chairs closer, creating a wall of borrowed strength. The LED screens had gone dark, returned to their regular programming of graduate names and achievements. But everyone kept glancing at them, as if expecting more revelations. The news crews had repositioned their cameras from the stage to the exit doors where federal agents were processing 3 arrests. Lorraine turned back once as they led her away, her expression finally matching reality, no more laughter. just the recognition of someone who'd played their last card and lost. The designer heels she'd bought with stolen money clicked against the concrete until the sound faded completely. The ceremony continued. Names were called, degrees conferred, futures launched, but there was an electric undercurrent now, a shared witnessing of something beyond a graduation. When the final graduate crossed the stage, when the traditional cap toss should have happened, half the crowd was still recording, still processing. I didn't throw my cap. I held it, this broken thing that had survived the assault, and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted differently now, not the shocked separation they'd given my family, but something else. Respect, maybe, or recognition of what it costs to stop being complicit in your own destruction. Nora met me at the AV booth, her laptop still open to the control system. The footage is already viral. 3 million views in the last 20 minutes. Good, I said. Let them see what nonprofit fraud really looks like. Diana stood by the stadium exit with a federal prosecutor. They'll be held without bail pending trial. The asset forfeiture includes everything: the house, cars, all accounts connected to the foundation. Victims will be able to file for restitution. What about the veterans they invented? Identity theft charges for each one. That's 32 federal counts alone. I nodded, feeling nothing where vindication should sit. This wasn't about winning. It was about stopping them from doing to another veteran what they'd done to me. The parking lot was chaos: news vans, police cars, families trying to leave. I walked through it all to my 10-year-old Honda with its rattling engine and cracked windshield. My phone buzzed with hundreds of messages, interview requests, offers of support from strangers who'd watched their donations get weaponized. I turned the phone off, sat in my car watching the last of the emergency vehicles leave, their lights painting the stadium walls red and blue before disappearing into regular traffic. Tomorrow, I'd start my ER residency at Northridge Medical, the position I'd earned with my own merit. I'd save lives in those golden minutes that mattered, using skills forged in combat and refined in night shifts. The Brave Hearts Foundation would be dissolved, its fraudulent history archived in federal court documents. My parents would spend the next several years in federal prison. The fancy clothes, the casino trips, the performance of success built on stolen valor, all of it would disappear into case numbers and correctional facility IDs. But right now, in this moment between my old life and the new one, I sat in a parking lot scattered with graduation programs and watched the sun climb higher over the stadium. The torn shoulder of my gown fluttered in the air conditioning. The broken mortarboard sat on my passenger seat like evidence of a battle finally won. I started the engine, pulled out of the lot, and drove toward the hospital where my real work waited. In my rearview mirror, the stadium shrank to nothing, taking with it the last place where anyone would ever again tell me to stop pretending to be brave. The confetti from the disrupted ceremony still swirled in my wake, catching the light like freed possibilities, like futures finally unencumbered, like the moment when silence breaks and the truth, at last, is louder than the lie. I never looked back. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from right now. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts on what you would have done in Madison's situation. Your support means everything, and I can't wait to hear your perspectives on seeking justice against family betrayal.